Okay.
Hi, welcome to Rose Yoga Tapping into Heart Courage. I'm your host, Varushka Normando, and today I'm speaking with a special friend, someone I met in Hawaii, July 19th, 2020, to be specific. And I was living on the Big Island of Hawaii, and Neowise, the comet that was going through our skies at the time, was said to be visible to the naked eye on Mauna Kea. So one Sunday morning, I woke up and I said, today I'm going to go up there, even if I'm going by myself. And it was raining in Hilo all day, so I didn't know if, how the visibility would be, but I went anyway. A friend ended up joining me and we went up the mountain. And as soon as we got up to Saddle Road, there was blue skies. We enjoyed the sunset. And there is a beautiful altar that was built there to Mauna Kea that has been there ever since I've been living there. That every time I drove to Kona, I gave my offerings. I stopped every time. A very special altar to me. And this evening, post the sunset, it was starting to get windy and a little gusty. And I found two beautiful crow feathers on my walk up this little hill in front of Mauna Kea. And as we descended with the feathers, there was this man in the parking lot running around asking for some assistance. And I was parked right next to him, and we wanted to drive up to Mauna Kea to be able to see Neowise. And then I see this trunk loaded down with beautiful leis and flowers and just lots and lots of beauty. And I stopped my friend and I said, we're doing this. We're helping this man. And suddenly we were roped into a whole ceremony, getting to clear this beautiful altar that I had no idea actually gets maintained by the Hawaiians, and got to be part of this beautiful ceremony. So it turns out that I got to, after praying for 10 years to meet my Hawaiian Kumu, I meet him on a new moon, under Neowise, on Mauna Kea at the altar I've been visiting and praying to for many, many years. So I'd like to introduce you to my Kumu Paul Neves, or Neves. I'd like you to say it correctly. So thank you so much, Kumu, for coming into my life on such a special, magical night that I ended up writing 8 pages about because I didn't want to forget a single thing that happened that night. So please welcome, introduce yourself, Kumu.
Aloha, aloha V, and aloha to listeners. Um, I think what's magical about this is there's such a beautiful connection between V and myself, and it was not planned. I did not know her from Adam or Eve the night we met. Um, so I would like to begin this way. Makoko.
I,
Hi. Makoko is a word that we use in hula. I'm a Kumu Hula, or a master of the dance. And Makoko means, are you ready? And I means yes. You never tell the Kumu you're not. You always say yes. And so I use yes, and I'm going to use it as a metaphor for the talks or the sharings that I will give. And I believe that this will be one of many. And I'm excited about doing it because I've been prompted to do this for years. But I'm busy. I'm busy doing other things, doing this stuff, like what I'm doing right now. I actually do what I'm going to tell you, like all the time. So I don't have time to sit down in front of a camera to talk about what I'm doing, unless you want to follow me around with a camera crew. But anyway, our language is A-E-I-O-U, not A-E-I-O-U like English. So I is spelled A-E, but it's pronounced I. So I'm going to take the A and I'm going to say aloha. And I'm going to take the E and I'm going to say energy. So aloha energy, stories of love, is what I'm going to call what I do. It's aloha energy, stories of love. And you're just going to have to follow me, or V and Paul, or V and Kea, or V and Kumu, however it lays out. I am not a high-tech person. I do not like it, actually. I miss V in the flesh, and this is as far as in the flesh we could be at the moment. It's very good, but it's still not in the flesh. And aloha is best transferred in the flesh. So I want to talk about that evening. And this is my first presentation of I saying yes to stories of love. And I was running up the mountain, Mauna Kea. I'm sitting on my porch in Keaukaha in Hilo. This is a real tea leaf, and that's a real Hawaiian flag behind me. It's my porch. And if you see a little blue, it's because I support peace in the Ukraine. I'm hoping for that. Pray for that every day. And Mauna Kea is that flash of light to my right. Mauna Kea is the tallest mountain on the planet. We live on the top third. 2/3 of it is below the sea. It is taller than Mount Everest. But more than its height, its significance to aloha, its significance to the breath of life is so significant that we have worshipped our akua, or God. Kua being the back, being the fire, that which inspires you to stand like this, V does a lot of workouts, so she has this nice posture. That's akua. That's an akua. That is the inspiration of the supreme being, however you call it. Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Ku Kane Lono Kanaloa, a native name for the creator. Ruah, as the Jewish people call God, the breath over the water. However it is, it's what makes you on fire, that you are just ready to do it. Excited like I am now. Excited to share stories of love. I wanted to spell some things about aloha, but I'll do it in story. I don't want to say aloha is this or aloha is that. I'll just, and for, what do they call in tarot? You cross watchers. If there are my own Kanaka Maoli is the native people, the original people. If they are Kanaka Maoli listening, please, I am not a native speaker. The language was taken from my mother, denied to me, but my children are, because I insisted that the next generation will never do that again. Will never take the voice and the heart and the culture right out of someone's mouth to fit someone's political ends. That is not good, and it's not good for humanity. I've always wondered what language Adam and Eve were speaking in the garden. I wonder if anybody ever cared to find out what their context was. Anyway, I was headed up to the mountain because a friend of mine who had lost her grandmother sadly, and I guess she had a lot of influence in my friend's life, had passed away. And she said, if you're going up to the mountain, would you please say a prayer for my grandma? And I remember the last name was Peters. So I said, okay, sure. So I also had to go there because there was a significant astrological movement that night. And when that happens, there's an ahu, or a stone cairn that was traditional in Hawaiian belief. We put that to ground energy from the heavens to the earth. It is not temporary, it is forever. And one of my tasks is I am an ali'i of the Royal Order of Kamehameha I, which is a traditional and customary practice of leadership of our people, both chiefs and chiefesses. And I ordered the building of that at the request of our elders, or kupuna, about 25 years ago. And they said, please build us on this place. It's about 6,000 feet. We call it a Vau Akua, or the realm of God. And the kupunas, that is the sound of Labor Day. So our kupunas were belaboring this thought that they would never be able to go up to the summit, which is another 8,000 feet high because of their age. So they said, please set us an ahu here at Pu'uhuluhulu for the purposes of remembering us, our spirit, and pray our spirit to the Mauna, to our mother, to our creator. Mauna Kea is the place where Wākea, Sky Father, comes to meet Papa Hanau Moku, or Earth Mother. And there they create from her bosom, which is the snow, the water that feeds us, the blessing that comes down. It's a male Sky Father, but female goddesses. The goddess Poliahu, or the ahu, or the temple, or the prayer altar of the breast, or of the love, the breast. There's Lilinoi, the cold mist that embraces you, and you do feel it. Right now it's 79 in Hilo. Beautiful day, just got back from the beach. But if I should go to Mauna Kea, we're talking about 37, right? So that's Lilinoi. And then there is the other goddess, Mo'inanea, and she takes a look and takes her charge at Lake Waiau, where the bathing waters of the gods and the goddesses, that highest water point here in Hawaii, is Lake Waiau. All very, very, very special places. So anyway, I'm running up there with these leighs, and I get there, and I think I scared the first people away because there was a lot of stuff, and I had to clear off the old. When we give gifts at the ahu, they're gifts of significance. They're wrapped in these tea leaf. Yeah, they're wrapped. Flowers, wala, or sweet potato. There is sugar cane that is wrapped, all with special meanings. There is taro. There is ulu, breadfruit, that is wrapped. All of these things, because when we give a whole kupu, or whole kupu means to make grow. So if I'm looking at V and I go, well, there's not much things that I don't like at what I see. But say if V is venturing off into a new venture, then maybe I offer a gift that says to V, may this whole kupu to you, Akua, be the gift that inspires this dream or this thought. And so my intention when I made the two leis for Grandma Peters, were Puakeni Keni, was one for those who were sad that lost their grandmother. And for me, the privilege of holding that spirit in my hands and offering it to the great mountain so that she might have peace, and that those who grieve may not see as sadness, but may see her pass in their lives over and over as they live their years. that she will never die, but just transform. And so I had to get the stuff ready. And these two people were in the shadows. I did not know if they were locals from Hawaii, if they were Hawaiian, if they were visitors, if they spoke English. I was just taking a chance because sunset was ebbing. And so out of the darkness, they came. And because I think V's friend that was with her, I think he was a bit reluctant, but he had obviously never been attacked by a Hawaiian, and his gifts for an altar. And I think in V, I think there is a spirit of that already. And so it responded. And sometimes in Aloha, we respond not knowing the 8 pages you had to write, not knowing that, but it just comes because we're in that really intimate setting. And Aloha is intimacy. It is that which is unconditional, an intimacy that we find in one another when we truly let go and let Akua enter. If we think about it, we stay in the shadows. If we try to explain it, perhaps our Akua or our beliefs become institutionalized and divides us and separates us from the love that Akua wants us to be. And you will hear me at times mix, and what they'll say, always mixing Christian belief with Native beliefs. No. Christianity came after the human was born, after the Christ had to come. Then Christianity came. Prior to the Christ coming, we were people in search of explanation for love. Who did this? How did they do it? We tried to explain. And yet the master, or Jesus, because I did follow Jesus, have a degree in theology, comes to do what? To say the same things I'm saying to you now. That if you think about it, you're going to stay in the shadows. But if you allow your heart to speak, your na'au to speak first, then it makes sense why Akua gave us eyes and ears and noses and lips and hands and feet to act upon our heart. That's why we can do great things, because our heart becomes filled with joy, that it is possible and nothing is impossible when our hearts find that alone. And so we found each other in that moment, and there was a lot of work. I don't think I remembered their name. I think they had to recall it to me, because we were just kind of huffing and puffing doing all this stuff. And then, as if Akua understood that and gave us a evening that I will remember always. And that every time I go there, it's one of those memories that, yes, and I've seen so many acts of Akua, people will call miracles or miraculous things, miraculous settings or events, that I have to pinch myself when I have low periods here at sea level, and I forget, and I find myself in a space of ye of little faith and not believing in that great Akua. Not like I have to go there, But I think as time passes, that you need to build that love and not just build it for yourself. If what I'm telling you, and I think you would agree, and I think others would agree, is that this knowledge is not for me. This knowledge I am privileged to have come through me. Like her milk from her breast that melts into the mountain and comes out in a spring and feeds the animals and hits the sea and touches the fish and creates the limu and the seaweed for us to eat and goes out. And the whale touches it with its nose and opens it and breathes it and takes it to the very depth of this creation. It is Akua resuscitating life when we allow Akua to move through us, not for us, not in our back pocket, not in our title, oh reverend, oh this, oh that. And I wear those titles. But I try not to discern my walk via the title. To be an ali'i, the measure of an ali'i was our generosity. And basically, and really, this is the truth. I have $1 in my wallet. I should go get my wallet and show you the $1. But there is no one richer. I believe I am so rich when I just remember these energy, this aloha energy, this I moment, this yes. People call it an aha moment. I call it an I moment. When yes came, because someone was in need. And I think you should tell them about Peterson.
Well, what was interesting was that, it was a sort of a memorial and honoring of that person's grandmother. And we just knew the name. And I think I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name on here, but you spoke the name and said, well, she liked to be really called Peterson. I feel like maybe her last name was Peterson. And then I said, wait a minute, my gym teacher in Germany was Peter Peterson. And then we laughed. And so we went from being very serious to then you would intersperse. Then we discovered Neowise, and we would see it. Then we're like, there's Neowise. Oh, and so we would get distracted with this very beautiful momentary happiness of what was. And because it was a new moon, there was little light pollution, so the Milky Way was heavily upon us. I mean, it was just blanketed with stars. And so then we would go into another prayer and hand over whatever needed to be handed over, and you were conducting it. But then we would have these personal sharings of everything you would describe, and then I would chime in and have this and have the synchronicity or this likeness. And then I would say, oh, well, I lived in this place too, in the middle of nowhere. And you're like, oh, my parents lived there and had a hula studio. And then we would laugh. And suddenly this white rainbow, when we all three laughed in those moments, this white rainbow came from Neowise and shot down to our field. And we saw it, and then we would all laugh in such delight and joy. And then we would go on with the ceremony. And I think within an hour, maybe we stood for an hour there in the kind of chilly, windy, wet, cold, but with a clear sky. And we guesstimated that about 15 white rainbows appeared in our field. And sometimes they would literally touch the sides of our feet and like a halo on both sides. And sometimes it would be in the field, sometimes directly around us. And it was just, we were all laughing with delight. And in between all of that, you would take an opportunity to point out a star system, and you were always constantly teaching Hawaiian mythology or mysticism, and you would share and teach, and then we would be back in ceremony. But it was just filled with so much joy and presence and magic. And then we found out toward the end that you said the last time you had ever seen a white rainbow, and you also said that the Hawaiians consider the white rainbow to be one of the most sacred ones, or most special ones. And you had said that you were there at a sunrise ceremony 5 years prior, and I happened to be at that same prayer ceremony.
So true.
So we both had seen the last one together. So that was very special.
And for those who are listening, and it's so nice to recall. She had this P. Peterson. I had this prayer for, I think it was P. Peters. And how could those two been on the mind? How could we have been? Now, people will use this word, and we should really watch not to use this word too much. Coincidence. Coincidence to me washes down akua. And akua is not coincidence. It's real. It's real. There is a real Peterson, and there's a real Peters, and there's a real V, and there's a real Kumu that was there 5 years prior. And there's an iconic picture of, I think, almost 1,000 people gathered. And why were they gathered? They were gathered because people in the world, some astronomers would like to build and they've already built too many, another telescope up on Mauna Kea. Okay. So Mauna Kea, and we were there 5 years ago, and I have been involved in the activism of trying to protect the Mauna Kea. Then after a while, we go, wait a minute, are we protecting the mountain, or is she telling us I'm trying to protect you? It's interesting. But anyway, we have stopped development on the mountain, the road, or Kamehameha, along with the Lahui, the people. For now, since 1998, they have not built a new telescope. They want to build one now. We revere as Native people this mountain as the very beginning, the pico, the center point of the universe. Just like the Native people in Mount Shasta, just like the Japanese people, Mount Fuji, just like the Apache people, Mount Graham, all throughout the world are people that seek that place where we cannot ascend, and yet they want us there so that they can descend, but they can't descend through the mountain. They descend through us. They come back through us. It is that circle of life that they want from us. So I want to close by saying, this was my first Stories of Love. And it was the love that when I met V, that was love. The 15 white rainbows were love. Tutu was there. These family's grandmother was there. Mr. Peterson was there. There were so many people there, and yet it was so dark, I only saw 2, but I felt thousands. Every star in the heavens resounded with the memory of a person. And so when we talk about saying yes, just allow ourselves to open ourselves, just like V, and receive what has been given from the very beginning. Creator's blessing and love. Aloha energy. How long do we have, V?
We have 3 more minutes.
I want to end with a chant. This chant is to beckon knowledge from the mountain. And if there are people out there that know this chant, by all means, chant along with me. The chant beckons, come, bring knowledge, And if you've been anywhere in Hawaii and know this, it is now common, but it wasn't 30, 40 years ago when we started to fight for the right to receive this love. The chant is called Mai. And so we leave you with this chant of Aloha. Mai kai ke mai luna mai o na mea huna noia o na mele mai mai o mai kai ke mai luna mai o na mea huna noia o na mele mai kai ke mai luna mai o na mea huna noia o na mele mai mai Makoko, stories of love. Mahalo.
Mahalo so much. Thank you for your generosity of spirit to always be teaching your aloha. And I have gained so much from your wisdom and your love for aloha. So thank you so much. I look forward to sharing more stories.
Aloha. Thank you, V.
Bye.